Hey everybody!
Hey guys!
Hey, I'm Todd.
I'm Jason.
That's Ziggy, and we are here to talk to you today about what we have learned over the past year, because guess what? As of the 2nd of April, it's been officially 1 year of us living full-time in an RV. Woo!
Yep, 1 year, guys.
Yeah.
1 year.
Happy full-time Glampaversary.
Yeah, I know. And I can't believe that it's already been a year. It has blazed by so fast. Just
really,
crazy fast.
Really, really has. So we're here today just to share with you some things that we've learned. Some things that we think we did, rather well over the last years. Some things that we feel we maybe could have done a little bit better. And the first thing that we learned almost immediately was that we needed a nicer shower head because it just wasn't giving us that amazing water pressure that we were used to living in a house. Something else to learn about showers is that you have limited hot water, so if your husband's taking a shower, don't do the dishes while he's taking the shower. And don't make this mistake repeatedly. God, I'm an idiot. Anyway, moving on to other things. Command hooks, things that save your lives. Aside from not doing that to your husband, command hooks. If you want to hang up anything in an RV, there is no need to use a screw or a nail. They've got so many different types of command hooks and stuff from that brand that helps you hang up everything so it looks nice and neat and it doesn't mess up your walls. Another thing just to think about too is whenever you put out a knick-knack, put some slip grip underneath there. You don't want things falling over, you want things gripped nice and tight. And we also use a lot of slip grips inside shelves. And speaking of shelves, not all your shelves are going to support the items that you think they are. You need to look closely at your shelves. Sometimes they're made of really thin veneer. And we discovered after several months of putting heavy items on it that it was starting to bow. So what I did was I got some 3/4 inch plywood, and I just created a little shelf underneath the shelf so that it still looked nice, but it was reinforced. So those are just little things to think about as you continue living in an RV. Think about, oh wow, why are my shelves bowing? Speaking of kitchen stuff, another thing to think about is the fact that even though you've got a residential style fridge perhaps, you might not necessarily have a residentially sized fridge. They're not usually as deep as a house fridge, so you kind of have to just sort of plan and shop and store accordingly. Now a big item that we definitely decided that we wanted to replace was a TV. It's not to say that the RV didn't come with a really nice TV, but we happen to have on hand a 4K smart TV, so we decided to replace that. And speaking of TV viewing, we are currently sitting in the wonderful, luxurious recliners that we use to watch TV. And a lifesaver has been these guys right here. These covers, yes, because this little one has claws. And also, leather, pleather, whatever it is, it can deteriorate over time. And it can get really kind of crackly and hard. So this really helps to avoid that happening. Another thing that's really important to do too, we think at least, is every few weeks to at least once a month to use leather conditioning wipes. It just helps to keep everything sort of soft and, well, bless you.
Bless you.
Ziggy's like, why aren't you talking about me? Why are you talking about leather? But anyway, the leather wipes will really keep your leather nice and soft and pliable. So another thing about these seat covers is that even though they cover the backs and the arms and the seats, they don't cover the areas where your legs hit the recliners, so that's an area to pay special attention to when you're using the leather wipes to make sure that that leather keeps nice and soft. So something that's an enemy to all RVs is moisture. So a good thing to invest in is a dehumidifier. And Jason got one a few months ago, and it works like a charm. And every now and then he'll pull out the little tray or whatever, and it's just full of water.
Yeah, probably I would say about maybe every 4 days I have to dump the humidifier, but it's a really, really good device to have in an RV because it will keep a lot of the moisture out of the RV. But it's also important to also if you're cooking or something, or taking a shower, that besides the dehumidifier, you also want to make sure that you have your air vents, your roof vents open during that time as well, so the moisture can escape.
Yes, that's always important to do. Use those vents because they are your friends. One final thing regarding seating is that over here to our left, which you can't see in this shot, is our couch, which we don't really use. It's basically an elaborate throw pillow display. So, occasionally we'll have company over and they'll sit on the couch. We've never used the hide-a-bed feature because we've never had overnight company. So, something to think about if you're a couple and you're buying an RV is how much do you really need your couch? Particularly like if we upgrade to a larger model in the future, which we'd love to do, one that has 2 couches, I just assume get rid of one of those couches and create a nice big like desk and workstation area. So, and that's also something that we thought about, I think, when it came to this is, well, why didn't we just go ahead and just bite the bullet and get the larger model to begin with? Well, we can think that, but I think we made the smart decision. And also statistically, I think it's overwhelmingly true that people, the first RV that they buy is not the one that they end up living in. Mm-hmm. So we're definitely looking forward to phase 2.
So the next phase of our lessons learned is the monthly and weekly maintenance that you need to do when you have an RV. Just like when you live in a home, you have yard work, you have to do, the spring cleaning, you have to do, certain types of maintenance where you have to clean out your gutters. With living in an RV, there is also the weekly and monthly maintenance, and I've learned a lot over the past year, and it was a little bit overwhelming, the first month. I'm like learning all of the new components, and I'm like, oh my god, okay, I have to remember that, I have to empty the tanks, every couple of days. I have to empty and dump the black tank once a week. I have to, check, the control center, make sure, certain levels are good. You have to, on occasion, put distilled water in your battery and things like that. We're still old school when it comes to the battery, but I do maintain the RV house battery per the manual. Most of the maintenance isn't that hard, and I'm used to it now, and to make it easy for me, I just add it onto my calendar, and I just repeat it every month. So I just get a little reminder every month that I've got my weekly and also my monthly, maintenance that I have to do. So some of the things that I've learned regarding yard work, for example, because, we are full-time in our RV. We have a home base here in Florida, and our little patch of grass and all of that needs a little bit of love, just like when we lived in a large house. But it's really nice now. It takes me maybe 30 minutes to do a little bit of yard work, and I don't even have to do it weekly like I used to, when we had a big house. So I've learned, that even if you're full-time in an RV, you still have to do a little bit of yard work, depending on where you are, and if you choose to still have a home base, which unfortunately we still, have to work and live local. And so we have chosen to at least live where we can have like a nice little area and a little patch of grass. Some of the other things I've learned is, you have to deal with your sewer. When you live in a house, you just flush the toilet and you forget about it. When you're in an RV, you got to keep your tank valve closed. I'm not going to go into all of that because pretty much all of you guys already know, the deal when it comes to your black tanks. That took me a little bit of a learning curve, not necessarily how to dump your black tank, but as far as the cleaning of your black tank, the pressure washing, the dumping, the chemicals. But now it's gotten to the point where we pretty much dump it on the same day every week because we don't even really use the control center and check the sensors anymore, because it's pretty much up here now that we know after a certain amount of time this tank needs to be dumped. The other thing regarding some of the maintenance is, even though we are full-time in an RV, but because we're stationary, a good part of the year, as well as, going on road trips, you still have to bring in and out your slides. So the manual recommends that you do that once a month. Makes sense to me because, if your slides are extended out for long periods, they are being exposed to the elements, your hydraulic arms, the pistons, all of the mechanics. So you do have to get up under the slides. You have to lube them, with some lubrication. And you also have to get up there and clean off the rams and the rods and all of that kind of stuff of debris because, sometimes some stuff can get gunked up under there. The other thing that I've learned is because our jacks are extended and exposed for long periods of time, my weekly maintenance regarding that is once a week I go around to all 6 of our jacks and I put a little bit of a silicone spray on a cloth and I clean all of the dirt and debris off of them and then give them a nice spritz of silicone. And I also make sure and get right up underneath and get that rubber seal cleaned and lubricated really good as well, because that's kind of what, as the jack is going in and out, that little seal is what kind of cleans off the jack as it's retracting up into the casing or whatever that thing is called. I don't know. The other thing is that you also have to take care of your awnings. So once a month I will go in and I will lubricate the awnings and make sure up in the areas where the motors are that no gunk or leaves or dirt or anything has gotten caught up in there. Even though we have slide toppers, I still have to get up on the roof on occasion and I have to clean the slide toppers. Fortunately, they do keep all the debris off the top of the slides themselves, but you still got to clean them. So not a big deal. The other thing I do that I've learned, about every 3 months, I do condition the actual sills of the slide outs so they stay very moisturized and palatable, because they will, over time, being exposed to sunlight, they will get brittle and dried out if you don't take care of them. The last thing that I have learned throughout this past year is that when it comes to the yearly maintenance, checking all of your sills, making sure that you don't need to recaulk anything, for example, I have learned that most RV service techs, mobile service techs included, will actually come out and do a 1-year service check on your RV, and they will also go around and check off the sills, all of the screws. They will basically just check it from top to bottom. They'll check and service your AC units and all of that. So I have learned that some things I'm good at when it comes to the maintenance. Some things I'm just going to have an RV service tech come out and do it for me, because I don't want to deal with it. So that's one thing I've definitely learned. All right, so on to you.
Okay. Well, this next topic is really about kind of like expectations versus being patient with yourself and kind of just going with the flow. It's kind of comprehensive. It goes with day-to-day stuff. It goes with thinking about stuff like repairs and maintenance. It also has to do with just like traveling and living the lifestyle in general. Now, when it comes to living in an RV, I mean, there's literally so many moving parts, so have patience with yourself. You're not going to know all the components from the get-go, how everything works. It takes time to ease into it. Well, yes, exactly. It takes time for you to ease into your little seat as well, because you keep sliding off. So things are going to happen. You're going to have repairs. You're going to have some setbacks. And sometimes it takes a while for the response to come. So just be as patient as you possibly can. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes a heck of a lot longer than you think it's going to take or should take. But here's the thing, is that stuff's going to happen. It's inevitable. And even if you can't necessarily control exactly what happens or how quickly it happens or how efficiently it happens, you can always choose your response to it. And that helps both logistically with making the process easier, and just in general life, it just helps with your mental health. And speaking of mental health, I mean, we chose this lifestyle because we wanted to have a more laid-back, carefree sort of existence. So when it comes to traveling and it comes to planning things, that's another important aspect when it comes to going with the flow and just letting things happen. Now, I love to, as much as Jason loves to plan life, I love to plan vacations. And I went seriously overboard for our first road trip. It was fun, but it was like an exhausting whirlwind of fun, exactly. So what we've learned is that, if you pack your day full of activities, if you try to go to too many places in a limited period of time, you're going to miss out on things like being able to enjoy your partner, enjoy your campsite, enjoy your campground, enjoy nature around you, enjoying the ability to just immerse yourself. whether it's in nature or whether it's in the culture of the town or the city that you've decided to explore. So if you're going to a place, don't say, okay, we're going to do 2 days here, 3 days here. You know what that's going to amount to is a lot of headache and a lot of hitching and unhitching and hitching and unhitching. It was wonderful practice because we needed it, but it was too much practice. So take 5, 6, 7 days to stay someplace, to the point where maybe even you start to get bored of the place. That means you've gotten to know it. So definitely when we plan future trips, we're going to be definitely planning for week-long stays. Already this year, we're like, let's go to this place and just see what happens. Also, just don't drive for more than 300 miles a day. It's going to wear you out. And also, I'm sure you know by now, Flying J's and pilots are your best friends. And they are great places to stop, to get gas for your big rig, and also to grab a snack and a drink and have a restroom break. I guess the overall lesson learned is go with the flow, and I'm going to keep the flow going by passing it back over to you.
The other thing that we have learned, well, I should say more that I have learned because I'm the one that basically does the driving and the towing. I have learned that you definitely need to have a hitching and unhitching checklist. So I have on my notes app a list now that I use, and we kind of learned the first few times we were unhitching and hitching, what we were missing. For example, the one thing that I knew going right into it was to always chock your wheels first. And so that was one thing I never did forget to do. I started getting a little bit acclimated to the list, and that I would forget things because I was not looking at my list anymore. So definitely have a list, keep it in front of you, and triple check everything. The other thing that I've learned is definitely plan your trips in advance. Todd had mentioned that, he's pretty much the trip planner. What we found that helped us was actually going into satellite view, or Google Earth also is an option. And Todd actually would go down into the actual street view of the areas once we got into, the cities or the towns where there was more, traffic involved. And he would make sure to check and see if it was going to be accessible, towing a larger RV. And the other smart thing that I think we both agreed on was that we try to plan our trip where we try to do mostly left-hand turns. Because when you're pulling out into an intersection, you have so much more room making a left-hand turn than trying to make a really tight right-hand turn. The other thing that we've definitely learned is you want to go the speed limit. I was terrified about possibly having a tire blowout because, again, on the Grand Design Facebook group, people were posting constantly pictures of them having blowouts, talking about, the tires being called China bombs. So I was really, really afraid, driving this for the first time and not really knowing if that was going to be a scenario that could possibly happen to us, having a tire blowout. But after I kept researching more and more and getting myself more comfortable, it basically just comes down to a few things. Go the speed limit. Our tires, for example, are G-rated tires, so they're really, really good tires, and they're only rated, though, at 65 miles an hour. The other thing that's really important when it comes to driving and tire blowouts that I learned is that you don't want your tanks to be full. It even says in the manual that you do not want to be driving your RV with the tanks full. Now, if you think about it, for every gallon of water, that is 8 pounds. We have a 90-gallon freshwater tank. We have a 55-gallon blackwater tank, and I believe both of our grays combined is equal to about 90 gallons. What we will do, because we pretty much go to full hookup sites. We don't even put water in the fresh tank. We've never filled it. It's been empty the entire time we've lived in our RV. The only thing that I would do is I would put about between each leg of the trip, I would put a gallon of water in both gray tanks with a little bit of cleaner and also a little bit into the black tank because that's really good for it to slosh around and it'll help to clean the sensors. But you don't really want to put more than just a gallon or two of water in any of your tanks. Now, yes, I know for people who boondock, you have to fill up your fresh water tank, but in those scenarios, again, based off of our manual for this RV, it said that you can do that, but you only want to drive very short distances, and you don't want to drive it really fast, because every time you're bumping or hitting potholes or driving it fast, this 90-gallon full freshwater tank is creating so much weight and stress on your RV that it can cause a tire blowout because it's not designed to have that kind of weight. And then the last thing I learned regarding tire blowouts, speaking of weight, is that another big factor is people overweight their RVs in general. They think that they're fine, with all the stuff that they put into their rigs, but you can actually overweight your RV, and then adding more weight by having your tanks full is just a blowout waiting to happen. And then, of course, the most, important thing is always make sure you have the appropriate tire pressure. So, I learned that, and we had no problems at all with the driving or anything, and I feel very confident that if we just follow those basic, rules that the manual tells you to do, that I don't think, knock on fake leather, I hope that we will never have to experience the dreaded blowout issue. The other thing that I've learned, when by going the speed limit, you will save on gas. We averaged about 11 miles to the gallon on our Ford 350 diesel. I've also learned that when you're driving, especially through the mountains, you need to give yourself plenty of room for vehicles, in front of you, behind you, when you are exiting, off of highways, when you are coming back onto highways. You need to make sure and give yourself plenty of room because you need a little more time to accelerate and decelerate as well. So it's extremely important that you take that into consideration, that you can't just slam on the brakes, that you need to give yourself plenty of room, from the vehicle that's in front of you. I've also learned to gas up your truck before you hook up, because if you're just driving, a short amount of time during the day, filling up your truck before you hook up, it's just much easier to get into gas stations, and you won't have to go to like a Flying J or a Pilot. So another great thing I learned having the truck when you're driving is to use the tow haul feature, and to also use the engine brake feature. It will not put as much wear and tear on your actual brakes. And it was really interesting because we have a very powerful truck, and I had been told that when you're just pulling in general, you don't even need to engage the tow haul feature. Ours is located right on the end of the little one thing, like by your steering wheel. I don't know what it's actually called, but I never engaged it. The only time I ever engaged it was when we were going through the mountains, and also I engaged the engine brake feature as well. And the cool thing is that when I was going either up part of the mountain, and especially going down, as soon as I would hit the brake, it would automatically shift into the lower gear. So I just thought that was a really unique feature. So for me, that was something new I learned, that a combination of these two features will automatically engage your truck to go into a lower gear. so you can get down those steep inclines with less worry because it was scary driving up through those mountains. The last thing that I learned was the day that we were leaving, I hit the hitch height to engage the front of the RV to line up to hitch up, and I got an error code, and I started freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? It's the first time hitching up the truck. I don't even know how to deal with this. So I ran inside, I pulled out the manual on how to operate the jacks, and I ended up having to use the touch control panel that's located right here on the inside of the RV, and I had to bring them up manually and override the error. But once I got used to that, now it's a piece of cake. Haven't experienced that, again. And if I do, I know what to do. So, I've learned to learn from your mistakes and things that can go wrong. You just use that as a natural learning experience.
Well, I'm going to talk now just about living in a small space in general and the challenges and joys that come from that. We've had really just a good experience as far as sharing a smaller space. We don't get in each other's way. I think we're both just naturally cognizant of being in a shared space in general, so we don't just sort of stand, cluelessly in the middle of a room. We let the other person pass by. The one thing that we cannot do is share the staircase. It is just far too narrow. So if somebody's coming down and somebody wants to go up, somebody's going to have to move. We can't play chicken, or we're just going to end up staring at each other on the stairs for an hour. But we're doing really good with that. We also have a nice walkway all around the bed, so no one has to climb over anybody. And we got plenty of room for this little guy over here too. So if you're going to be living in a small space, we do suggest that you probably have a smaller pet like this guy, also one who is paper trained. And when that paper starts to fill up, get that in the trash as quickly as you can, because smells sort of permeate and flow through the air very quickly in a small space. And I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, but sometimes things get a little bit stinky. And also, when it comes to human bathrooms, just remember that air vent and fan is definitely your friend in a smaller space. So one thing that I definitely want to address is cooking, because I guess I had this vision that I'd be outside grilling all the time. Well, we do live in Florida, and weather happens a lot, so I've had to adjust my plans, sometimes on the fly, and move my cooking equipment indoors. So it's really good for us to have portable equipment like an electric non-stick skillet, our air fryer as well, even the Instant Pot. These are things that can be used indoors and outdoors, so that if the weather changes or your plans change, your equipment can easily be carried from one spot to another. So I've found that as we've kept kind of going on, I'm doing less and less grilling and more using our ever helpful and ever friendly kitchen gadgets.
We're gonna pretty much finish up the video now on two last points that I'm gonna talk about one, and then Todd will talk about one. And they're, I think, some of our favorite lessons that we've learned. And what I have learned is in the RV community, how friendly and helpful people can be. Just the camaraderie and the, hey, we're all here for the same reason. We all love to glamp, camp, be in the wild, be in nature, live in an RV or a Class A or a pop-up camper, whatever your camper of choice would be. We have just learned that everyone here is just so friendly and so giving of their knowledge. For example, when we first moved here, there was a little bit of maintenance that I was having an issue with, and a gentleman who was living next to us at the time came over and showed me a few little pointers and a few little tips. And what is the cool thing about this community is that you can learn all kinds of great things. You can learn new things, or you can learn how to do the things that you've been doing. You can learn how to do them more efficiently, more easy. Everyone is just so nice and so helpful.
Well, I guess one of the most important lessons is one that we pretty much were teaching ourselves all along the way, and that's, don't just talk about it, do it. Seize that opportunity to make this happen. If you're sitting there right now thinking, oh, I don't know, maybe I should, if you have the opportunity to do it and the means and the desire, don't hesitate anymore. Start making a plan. Even if it takes longer than you think it's going to take, keep going at it, because if you can achieve this and you can find the happiness and the relaxation and the wonder that we found, you're going to be very happy that you stopped talking and you started doing.
And we are the perfect examples of, if you set realistic goals, stop talking about it, get those goals going, make them realistic, because we did it. We gave ourselves a 3-year goal. We did it in 2. Because we realized it was just going too good, that we could even do it quicker. You just have to stop procrastinating, and you gotta get out there and start setting those baby step goals to make it happen.
Thank you for letting us share our experiences with you guys. We hope you've enjoyed this little chat. Thank you so much for your just continued support. And we look forward to sharing many more adventures with you for many years to come. And who knows, maybe we'll do a 5-year down the road, what we've learned chat. But that's to come. We're going to take it step by step, day by day. And of course, the most important lesson of all, we're going to take it cocktail by cocktail.
There you go. Yeah, and that's definitely a lesson that I have learned, is that life goes much, much more smoothly when you have a cocktail.
Very true. So I guess it's time to wrap up.
Yeah, so thank you guys very, very much. Thank you for all of your support, and we appreciate all of you guys, subscribing and watching our channel. But with all that said, I think we're going to wrap it up and get ourselves out there and make some memories.
Sounds good. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Leave a comment to say hi. If you like us, please subscribe. And if you don't, our little fluffy dog will attack you.